The conversation around Moses Itauma has grown into one of the biggest stories in boxing today, not only because of his talent, but also because of the way legendary names, respected analysts, and trainers have been speaking about him. At just 20 years old, Itauma has started to gather praise that most fighters only dream of hearing at such an early stage in their careers. A lot of the comparisons naturally lean toward Mike Tyson, who remains the youngest heavyweight champion in history. But the voices discussing Itauma make it clear that while the comparison is flattering, what sets him apart is not imitation, but the fact that he seems to be carving a unique path of his own. When Mike Tyson himself was asked about Moses Itauma, his words carried a heavy weight. Tyson, who is often cautious when people try to liken young fighters to him, was impressed by the way Itauma carries himself inside the ring. He said that Itauma is a great fighter, and if he keeps working and continues with the same discipline, he will become a legend himself. Tyson highlighted how unusual it is for someone as big as Itauma, around 6'5" tall, 250 pounds at just 20 years of age, to move with such agility and quickness. Tyson admitted that in all his years he had never seen a heavyweight of that size move so well, showing balance, speed, and precision on his feet. To Tyson, this ability, mixed with hunger and focus, is what separates Itauma from many of today's heavyweights who sometimes lack that raw drive. Tyson also stressed that greatness is not just about staying undefeated, but about how a fighter handles losses. He explained that sometimes losing in a spectacular way can raise a fighter's value, because people admire courage and risk-taking. Tyson himself lived through both the highs of dominance and the lows of defeat, and he believes Itauma must understand that mindset if he is to last at the top. The conversation then turned to how the culture of boxing has changed. Tyson noted that in today's world, with social media, fans crucify fighters for a single loss, unlike the old days when people understood that a loss could still teach and add value to a career. This pressure makes it even harder for young fighters, but Tyson believes Itauma has the discipline and maturity to deal with it. The way Itauma is being groomed and guided reminded Tyson of his own days under his mentor Cus D'Amato, and even shared a moving story about Itauma, saying that Tyson himself gives him hope and motivation in life. That statement showed how much of an influence Tyson remains for young boxers who see him not only as a legend of the past, but also as a living source of inspiration. Ariel Helwani, one of the most respected voices in combat sports media, added his own perspective. Helwani praised Itauma's achievements at such a young age, pointing out that Itauma is realistically in a position to break Tyson's record of becoming the youngest heavyweight champion ever. According to Helwani, Itauma's rise is not just hype but built on real progress and consistent performances. He noted how Itauma's flawless showings have already earned him recognition from veterans and respected analysts, which shows the seriousness with which the boxing world views him. Helwani emphasized that if people are genuinely discussing Itauma potentially breaking Tyson's long-standing record, then it speaks volumes about his talent and trajectory. When asked about when he realized boxing could be his true career path, Itauma himself recalled sparring with Lawrence Oakley. After that sparring session, his trainer messaged him, saying that what Itauma had done that day was unbelievable and that if he stayed disciplined, he could become one of the greatest heavyweights in history. At that time, Itauma had already been a two-time European gold medalist and two-time national champion, but even then he didn't yet see himself the way others did. That moment with Oakley helped him recognize that maybe he really was destined for greatness. Analysts have been especially impressed by Itauma's style inside the ring. At heavyweight, fighters are usually known for their size and power, not for their agility. Yet Itauma moves like a light heavyweight. Observers note that his footwork allows him to cut angles, slip punches, and deliver sharp counters that confuse and overwhelm opponents. The combination of his large frame and unusual speed makes him one of the most exciting prospects not only in boxing but across all combat sports. Commentators have even compared his performances to breakthrough moments in boxing history. For example, some analysts recalled how critics doubted Mike Tyson before he demolished Michael Spinks in under 2 minutes, and they drew parallels between that and Itauma's win over Dillian Whyte. In both cases, the young fighter silenced skeptics with a devastating performance that felt like a turning point in their careers. Showbiz the Adult, a popular boxing analyst, went as far as saying that Itauma's knockout of Whyte reminded him of Tyson's demolition of Spinks. He noted that people had doubts, saying Itauma hadn't been tested at the highest level, just as they once doubted Tyson. But the way Itauma handled Whyte with composure, power, and ruthlessness erased those doubts, at least for the time being. The comparison wasn't meant to claim Itauma as Tyson's equal, but to underline the scale of what he achieved in that fight and how it resembled one of the most famous breakthrough moments in boxing history. At the same time, Itauma himself has made it clear he doesn't want to be defined by comparisons to Tyson. He appreciates the respect, but he wants to set his own path, just as Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Alexander Usyk have each carved their own legacies. Itauma has said multiple times that he wants to be remembered as Moses Itauma, not as the next Tyson. To him, the comparison comes mostly because of the age factor. Tyson won the world heavyweight title at 20, and Itauma is now in a similar position where he could break that record. But in terms of style, Itauma sees himself as very different. Frank Warren, Itauma's promoter, has spoken about matching him soon against names like Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark, which shows the confidence his team has in his ability to handle seasoned domestic fighters already. Itauma's dominant win over Mariusz Wach, a big, durable veteran who was expected to give him rounds but was stopped in 2, only added to the hype. Commentators like Aday Oladipo have said that some fighters don't need to go through endless tough tests to prove themselves because their talent is already clear. Oladipo argued that Itauma's performance against Whyte was exactly that kind of statement, proof that he has the potential to be a champion without needing a dragged-out war. Of course, not everyone is fully convinced yet. Some critics have suggested that Whyte may have been injured before the fight, pointing to the sudden change from a 12-round fight to a 10-rounder. There were rumors that Whyte wanted it reduced because of a pre-fight issue. While these rumors haven't been confirmed, analysts debated whether they could explain the quick ending. However, many argued that the way Whyte moved in the fight was consistent with his long-known weaknesses and had nothing to do with injury. They believe Itauma's win was legitimate and deserved full credit. Mark Tibbs, who used to train Dillian Whyte, gave an honest reaction that added even more weight to Itauma's performance. He admitted being almost speechless at the knockout. Tibbs explained that while Whyte looked in good physical shape, age and accumulated wear from years of tough training camps had taken their toll. Still, he praised Itauma for showing emotional composure, high fight intelligence, and remarkable movement for a heavyweight. According to Tibbs, Itauma is simply that good, and while he still needs to be tested over longer fights, his skill level is already undeniable. On the other hand, Sam Jones offered a more cautious take. He argued that while Itauma looked fantastic, the fight did not answer key questions about his chin, stamina, or ability to adapt in deeper rounds against sustained pressure. Jones pointed out that Itauma is clearly special, but one easy fight doesn't provide all the answers about how he'll handle adversity. In other words, the hype is justified, but it must be tempered with realism because true greatness is proven over time and through many different challenges. Altogether, the voices of Mike Tyson, Ariel Helwani, Showbiz the Adult, Aday Oladipo, Mark Tibbs, Sam Jones, and others paint a picture of a fighter who is both extraordinary and still untested in some areas. Tyson praised Itauma's unique size-speed combination and warned about the importance of discipline and handling losses. Helwani suggested he could break Tyson's youngest champion record. Showbiz and others compared his knockout of Whyte to Tyson's destruction of Spinks. Oladipo argued he has already shown championship qualities without needing years of testing. Tibbs highlighted his brilliance while acknowledging that Whyte was in decline. Jones reminded everyone that questions about stamina and resilience remain unanswered. And through all of this, Itauma himself continues to emphasize that while comparisons to Tyson are flattering, he is determined to be remembered as his own man. His youth, size, athleticism, and already impressive record have put him on a trajectory that excites almost everyone in the boxing world. Whether he fulfills the prophecy of becoming the youngest heavyweight champion or not, what's certain is that Moses Itauma has already positioned himself as the most exciting young prospect in heavyweight boxing today, and his journey will be followed closely by fans, critics, and legends alike.